Okay, we are unmuted, and I'm gonna pull this little piece of art off. And are you in, you got it in light mode over there?
I don't.
That would be good while we're doing our little housekeeping before we kick things off.
Also, I'm doing the wrong thing. Let's just do the not my whole screen. So you guys don't get to see my Slack.
Nice. Smart move.
How's it going?
Good, I'm gonna open my seltzer water here. And all right, we're ready to kick things off?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, welcome to BitDev's Radio Hour number 11. This is Friday, February 20th. We're broadcasting live from ATL BitLab in Atlanta. I'm Stephen DeLorme.
I'm Alex Lewin.
How's it going, Alex?
Very, very well. Happy Friday. Super excited to be back with you doing another BitDev's Radio Hour.
Enjoying another Guinness over there, I see.
I am, yes. Thank you again for the Guinness Corporation.
And I'm going to actually, I've got an ice cold Heineken, which is our latest sponsor. I'm actually going to open this right by the mic so everybody can hear it. Oh yeah, hear that cold one being popped?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for sponsoring the show, Heineken. Hey, if you have any Bitcoin companies out there, like maybe Anchor Watch, which is listed on the little bottle opener here, if there's any Bitcoin companies that want to put themselves on the same level as Heineken or Guinness, just let us know. We'd love to feature your brand on the show with a sponsorship.
Yeah. Heineken's owned by Bush, I think. Anheuser-Busch. Yeah, it's one of the
mega corporation.
So thank you, Anheuser-Busch, for sponsoring BitDev's Radio Hour.
Really, really glad to know that you're into freedom tech and hard money for every human on Earth.
Cool.
All right. Well, cheers to our sponsors and our future ones.
Cheers.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we have on the agenda for today?
We got a lot of juicy topics. We got a new Bitcoin Core release. We have a nice post about the future of Bitcoin Core's GUI. We have some op-return statistics. We have Peter Woola's magnum opus about quantum computing that I think is going to completely reframe the whole quantum computing discussion. We have futuristic new multi-party signing protocols. We have Lightning updates. We have AI updates, and we have some shit posting. So yeah, lots to talk to.
All right, let's get into it. Where should we start?
Let's actually start at the top. So Bitcoin Core 29.3 is now released. What is in Bitcoin Core 29.3?
Well, let's see. Updates to the P2P network, validation updates, wallet updates, bug fixes for the mining aspect of it.
Is this one fixing the wallet migration thing, or no? That was only a bit.
It is, to my understanding, it is a different but similar bug.
Okay.
I was digging into the issue a little bit, and it looks like it's a separate issue than the one that people were familiar with from Core v30. But it's similar related thing of like accidental deletion.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, for anyone who's not aware, it's like with older versions of a piece of software for the non-technical people out there. Even once a new major release comes out, you're still going to get bug fixes and other improvements like that are kind of backported to older releases on a minor version. So
yeah, good call it. Like Bitcoin 30 is still out. So Bitcoin 30.2 is the current, or Bitcoin 30.1 is the latest version. And this is a release to 29. It's a minor version of 29.
So,
all right, super exciting for all those Bitcoin 29 users.
All those Bitcoin 29 users.
Cool. So let's talk now about the future of Bitcoin Core GUI. So what we have here is a post by Antoine How do you say his last name?
I pronounce it Poinsot, but I'm not sure. But I'm not sure if that's correct.
Yeah, maintainer of Bitcoin Core, talking about the future of the Bitcoin Core GUI. So if you didn't know, Bitcoin Core, the software that actually makes Bitcoin work, also comes with a wallet with its own GUI, with a UX about how to spend and receive money to a Bitcoin wallet packaged inside the same software project. So this is kind of bizarre. Typically, infrastructure projects don't have a GUI, or it's very bare bones, and they don't want a ton of users. It's usually separate, but Bitcoin historically has had this GUI. So in the past, people have talked about deprecating this, but it's still a part of Bitcoin Core today. But this is a new update, fresh look. So what's actually new about this, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been a discussion in Bitcoin Core for a while, like should it have a GUI, should it not? I think worth framing this historically a little bit, because you mentioned that like not a lot of infrastructure projects have GUIs, or I might say I think a lot of them have GUIs, but they're usually like secondary libraries. They're like secondary tooling you run. Bitcoin is a little bit unique in that the primary reference implementation has a graphical user interface that's actually like part of the original code base. And if you're building from source, you can either build it with the GUI or without the GUI. And so if, a lot of people who are running Bitcoin infrastructure, maybe for, companies that back Bitcoin products and stuff, you're probably just running this on a server. You're running it from the command line. You might even be compiling without the GUI to begin with. But if we actually go back to like the early days of Bitcoin, it's arguably the GUI, may have been responsible for some of its early success. Especially I think the original client was actually built for Windows. And so something you could minimize to the Windows taskbar. And the fact that it was something that could be run from a GUI, you just download it and run it, it kind of puts it in the same category as stuff like BitTorrent. A lot of BitTorrent stuff has graphical user interfaces. People have been using that kind of software to like pirate stuff for a long time. I would say another thing would be, I had another example in my mind of stuff that had GUIs that was very popular, but it just left. But it's like, I think of it as like, there's all these kinds of software that people will run on their computer, and they don't have to be like super technical people to run this stuff. They just need to download something and minimize it to the Windows taskbar. And that really gets you a lot of like adoption. It helps to kind of bootstrap the size of the network. And I think that in the early days of Bitcoin, that probably helped to, bring on people who are maybe interested in it for ideological or philosophical reasons, not necessarily like people fascinated by how the tech stack works.
Yeah.
But what Antoine's posting about here is how I'm trying to get the exact phrasing. Antoine is saying, okay, look, there hasn't been a lot of discussion over this in the past year until today, when the Bitcoin Core GUI maintainer called during the weekly Bitcoin Core meeting for the deprecation of the GUI, which has been on life support for half a decade, and its eventual removal. So he links to the IRC stuff, and you can go read the meeting if you're interested. And I think like a good way to frame this discussion is around the idea that, okay, Bitcoin Core, as Antoine says, like in a perfect world, all things being equal, if all things are equal, we probably would prefer that the reference implementation have a GUI rather than not have a GUI. However, things are not equal. Like there are limited time and resources to go towards Bitcoin Core as it is. Every new feature you add, whether it's an opcode or a new like RPC endpoint or whatever it may be, that's a new thing that needs to be maintained and checked in PR review and have tests built around it to make sure that it works, right? So with that being said, is having a GUI the best use of core maintainers' time when there are maybe more pressing stuff like consensus and peer-to-peer networking and stuff like that? When you look at things on like say the Lightning side of Bitcoin, no Lightning implementation ships with a GUI baked in. Not LND, not Core Lightning, not Eclair or Phoenix D or Lightning Dev Kit. Like none of these things have implementations. Having said that, it hasn't really stopped adoption from the Lightning Network from growing. I mean, there's just these other UI projects that people adopt. In the case of Phoenix, you can download like Phoenix or like the Eclair's whole Lightning stack. You can download the Phoenix UI. Yeah. In the case of L&D, stuff like ThunderHub has been very popular. So there are UIs, and it's just kind of seen as like the secondary thing. So I think the question is here is like not should there or should there not be a UI for the Bitcoin GUI? It's just should the UI be the responsibility of Bitcoin Core maintainers?
Yeah, I'm looking at the IRC chat. This is the first time I've seen like the actual argument from the maintainer himself. But yeah, it's a common opinion that GUI development sucks, but I see it differently. It's in a stalemate. The current monolithic approach in the code base, build system release process, and publishing makes it infeasible to move forward neither in the current GUI, which is yada yada yada, nor in the new QML-based GUI. So this crisis stems from the natural antagonism between security and functionality. So there's a very specific problem that's emerging. It's not just like opinions. It's technically challenging to keep these projects in the same repository.
Yeah, because he's saying like, you want to be able to, it's a stalemate. You want to be able to move forward and make progress with the UI, but when you tamper with something in the UI, you might be messing with something somewhere else more important, and so you can't just like you can't just change things around.
Yeah.
So I think the discussion though, it's like, so what would be like an example of how to proceed forward? Well, one idea that Antoine's talking about in the post, it's call for an IPC interface for anyone to build a GUI without the need to be tightly coupled to Bitcoin Core's internals. Making Bitcoin Core more modular and creating public interfaces to expose functionalities to external software appear to me entirely incontroversial among the current group of contributors. So I think it's better to focus this discussion on the previous point of contention that is deprecating the GUI. So let's unpack that a little bit. When we talk about like having an IPC interface, the idea would be, well, let's look at an example of another IPC interface that exists for Bitcoin Core, and that would be the new mining interface that was released last year.
Yeah, IPC is inter-process communication, so just a protocol language.
Yeah, and so there was this problem. There's for mining, in the world of Bitcoin mining, there was this project called Stratum V2. Well, it still is here. I love Go Stratum V2. Go Stratum V2. Stratum V2 is just a way to make mining pools, more decentralized and to secure the communication channels between the mining pool and the miners. Now, previously, you had to run a forked version of Bitcoin Core in order to get a Stratum V2 pool to talk to it. That has since been resolved, to my understanding, because there's now a new mining interface for Bitcoin Core, an IPC interface. And so a Stratum V2 client is able to talk to a Bitcoin Core node using the mining IPC interface. And the idea is that for Bitcoin Core maintainers, it's it's easier to commit to maintaining a proper IPC interface than it is to like manage the software and the integration on the other end.
And the build process and like the actual deployment of the software.
Yeah, so it's like, if we're gonna have a GUI, it's like, what if Bitcoin Core, over a course of time, started to deprecate the GUI, said, it's not gonna be maintained after, I don't know, 2030 or something like that, committed to having, maintaining an IPC interface that a GUI could connect into. And then that opens up the doors for people, to be able to build their own GUI projects as, separate open source projects and they can move more nimbly because they can, work on their GUI without needing to go through the same approval process that Bitcoin Core goes through. They just need to talk to the IPC interface.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is, it's like rather than building a point-to-point connection between software, you build a protocol between them. Like you build an API interface, you build something so you can decouple the two things and have a shared agreement about how they communicate, so you can separate the teams.
Yeah.
There's a quote in here. It's many actually posts. So he hit the limit on the max number of words in a Delving post, so he had to separate into a couple of comments as well into a thread. But yeah, one quote that I like, it is obvious to me that if Bitcoin Core never had any wallet or GUI, it would be ridiculous to suggest that core contributors take some time off maintaining the software underpinning $1 trillion network to develop yet another Bitcoin wallet or GUI. Like that in and of itself kind of sums up the whole thing to me. Yeah. But mainly, I don't think anybody really objects to this. The main objections are with people that say, oh, it has existing users and we don't want to like leave them and confiscate their money.
Yeah, well, I think that's one good argument. So let's explore that. Let's explore some kind of counter arguments to this proposal and see. So like you said, you have existing users. You might have existing users of the GUI who've been using it for a long time. And if you say stop supporting the GUI one day, then you're basically saying they can't upgrade to newer versions of Bitcoin Core. Is that a problem?
Either they can't upgrade or they must go through some migration path that's not just upgrading the software, so that they could theoretically still support them.
Yeah, I think there's some nuance there. It's like, you could make, first off, if you wanted to deprecate the GUI, you could come up with a deprecation plan and be like, we want to have it, out, and, we'll first go ahead and deprecate it. Say it's no longer going to be supported after this date. So as of this date, it's deprecated and it won't be receiving any more support, like any more regular maintenance. Then you set a timeline after that for like, okay, after this version, it's not going to be actually part of core anymore. And so you give people many, many major versions before it's removed, before they have to migrate. Even after that, you could still, for the final version that has the GUI in it, you could still do like patch releases and minor releases, kind of like we were talking about earlier in the show with 29.3. You could still do patch releases.
Yeah, security updates.
Yeah, security updates, stuff like that. You would, however, reach a point where, they would need to continue and move to a new version. But I think by that point, it's like at that point in time that they should probably be moving on to one of the more modern side project GUIs. I think another piece of resistance I see to this idea is just people being like, I've been a user of Bitcoin Core for a long time. I like the GUI. Like more of this idea of like not understanding the idea that like it being a side project would like kind of not understanding the idea that or being upset about the idea that if it was a separate project, that doesn't feel like Bitcoin Core to me.
Yeah.
Like we have this kind of narrative of like, okay, Bitcoin has this many eyes on it. It has, so much PR review. It's so thoroughly vetted and tested. And then there's this kind of like sense of comfort of like, yeah, if I click the buttons in the UI, like I know this is like this very robust piece of software.
Yeah, what they're getting at, I think, is very close to the problems, which is like it's very expensive to put this much effort into anything that touches Bitcoin Core. And arguably, we're putting too much of our very expensive resources into this effort to put all of this attention into Bitcoin Core's GUI.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's like it's kind of getting at the same issue.
Yeah.
I also think like you could have a official Bitcoin Core GUI, but just have it in a separate repo and kind of have a separate team working on it. But this like GUI repository, the code in that uses the IPC interface to talk to Bitcoin Core. So they're not like completely isolated projects. There's still some tight collaboration. You could even, maybe even do a thing where like you create a release that has like the Bitcoin Core and the GUI kind of bundled into one package, like both signed together or something like that, just to make it easier for people.
Yeah, I mean, you could either, one disadvantage of keeping them in the same project is that the release cycles have to line up. Like oftentimes you want to upgrade one, but not tell people that there's a new update for like the UI. So like it's both a strength and a weakness to... Yeah, like the fact that it's all intertwined seems like obviously inefficient. It's just a feature of it being a legacy thing. Yeah, we'll see.
So, I don't know. It is interesting though, and I think it gets me thinking about it more as a UI guy. I think it would be worth actually just throwing a quick shout out to the Bitcoin Core app.
Yeah,
BitcoinCore.app. Could you go to that website, please? So we're going to BitcoinCore.app. And this is a project that started in the Bitcoin design community to try and redesign the interface for Bitcoin Core. And a lot of designers have looked at it, and a lot of there's it's like it's an open source project, and you can see their meetings on YouTube and stuff, and it's a very well documented project. And I think it kind of showcases the potential of what a Bitcoin Core UI could look like, because I remember somebody, I think was like a Spiral grantee, did some research like 4 or 5 years ago about, it was like, yeah, it was a long time ago, it was like 2021. They did this research about like what people thought about Bitcoin, and kind of came up with this realization that people were Google searching Bitcoin, somehow ending up on the Bitcoin Core website, downloading the software and just being like appalled at how it looked, because it looked like something from the late 90s.
Yeah, like grandma wants to buy Bitcoin because she heard it on CNBC, goes to bitcoin.org, downloads Bitcoin, and then is upset with it being a bad UX.
Yeah, just like it's like this like doesn't look like future money. So trying to like make node running like a more app-like experience. And there's actually a maintained fork of Bitcoin Core where some of this has been coded. Now, I don't think it's ready for prime time yet, but it's it's just kind of a proof of concept. So I bring this up just as a conversation piece that, I think there's a lot of people who really do like the idea of a good UI for Bitcoin Core, and just making it super simple to run a node. And I really don't think that anybody would disagree with that idea. And I think there's a lot of potential, and arguably if it was separated into its own project, it would actually be faster to iterate on user experiences like this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I sit. Like, I might be the one person in the industry that disagrees with even the idea of a Bitcoin Core sanctioned or like owned wallet.
I see that, but I think it's deeper than just the wallet. There's also the idea that like if you want to run a node, you should be able to.
Oh, just for the node, not for the wallet.
Yeah, sure.
Is that, I always assumed that Bitcoin Core app was for the wallet.
No, it's actually for running a node. I mean, it's both, but
It's both. Is it primarily one or the other, or?
I think they started off kind of with some of their earliest work, I think was more around the node idea, but they do have UX flows for wallets as well.
Okay, no problem with the UI for the node.
So you see that thing right there that says, for anyone not just listening, we're looking at a UI mockup, and it says the block status, and it's got this like little block clock thing. So that's actually like supposed to be like this, like fun indicator that, shows you like how synced your node is and what the status of the network. It's supposed to be a little more visually appealing, and that way you can, when you pull out the app, you can kind of see it changing and all that. And actually, one of the code maintainers of this project actually, he built a version of this that compiles on an Android tablet.
Cool.
So he was able to pull this up and start syncing a node on an Android tablet. The cool thing about that was that it's like once you prune it, you just have like I don't know, it was like 7 gigabytes of UTXO database at that time, but you just run a pruned node and you got a validating node on your Android tablet. So,
on your tablet, that's crazy. Yeah, I remember seeing this at a conference or something. Yeah, cool. Any final thoughts about GUI?
No, I think we're good. We lingered a while on that one, so probably best to move on.
Yeah, cool. What's your over-under on when it'll finally be dead? Not dead, but just separate.
I don't know. I would just say as like a closing thought is I think, the way to think about it is like, I think that, there needs to be either somebody who's really excited about that work, that wants to step up and like help out with the UI as like a developer working in Bitcoin Core, someone who's excited to take on that work, even though it sounds kind of painful. But I think we need like people who, if we want to keep the UI, I feel like there needs to be people who are excited to step up and take on that work. And if not, then I feel like people would be best served with it being a separate project. So I think it's just like, who wants to work on this? This is open source. So, we have to, reach some rough consensus about the direction to go here. But I think both paths are feasible, but someone's got to be excited about doing that work.
Okay. Yeah, I was, after reading this, I was like, my initial reaction was like, my understanding was that it's only a matter of time before it's eventually separated, but it sounds like that it's not a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why Antoine's trying to, talk about it on Delving. That's like, he's talking, that's why he says at the beginning of his post that the conversation kind of stagnated for a year. And, he's trying to get a conversation going about it again because of some of the frustrations expressed in a recent IRC chat. So
Gotcha.
I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, but yeah, we just got to figure out what we're going to do here.
Cool. All right, let's do a brief touch on the op return stuff.
Recent op return statistics.
Yeah, so a couple of different people on the internet have compiled some data validating or just data about supporting or refuting the hypothesis that Bitcoin Core 30. First, Bitcoin Core 30 changed the op return limits. You could previously only publish a very small amount of data instead of an op return, or else the transaction would get dropped from the mempool. But now with Bitcoin 30, that limit has been removed, and some people have been hypothesizing that this would lead to a large amount of spam being propagated on the network. So Bitcoin Core 30 happened in September. No, when did Bitcoin Core 30?
It was like fall Q4 of last year, I think.
Yeah, Q4. September 22nd. So since then, it's prudent to check to see if the hypothesis was correct or incorrect, if dropping the limit actually led to a higher amount of spam reaching the network. So looking at blocks created after Bitcoin Core 30 was released, up until the current date when he posted, he gets the following results. There were 24 million transactions that had an op return output, and 24 million individual op return. So yeah, a little bit more. So that seems wrong. He says there was only 300 transactions that contain multiple op return outputs. That's what that math means. So he's saying there's 24,300,300 transactions that had op return outputs, and there's 24,300,011 individual op return outputs. How does that make sense? They're saying that there's more transactions with op return outputs than there were op return outputs themselves.
No, it's the opposite. He's saying there's more individual op return outputs than total number of transactions with them.
Oh, I'm off by 1,000, sorry. So there's 700 transactions that contained multiple op return outputs.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
Okay, so 61 transactions with multiple op return, so that's what he's saying. Yeah, there were 61 transactions that had multiple op return outputs. 396 transactions with a total op return script pub key size greater than 83 bytes. So he's saying that of the 24 million transactions that contain op return outputs, 396 wouldn't have been valid without the limits being dropped. So yeah.
Or it wouldn't have been standard, I guess.
Yeah, it would have been non-standard.
Because you could still mine them before. They just...
Yeah, it would have been mempool valid.
Yeah.
Which is noteworthy. What's the math on that? So 0.44%, 0.44%. Large op returns accounted for 0.044% usage of bytes in op returns. So less than 0.5% of all op return data post Bitcoin V30 had an op return bigger than the previous limit. 0.5%.
Wow.
That's not even saying 0.5% of transactions. 0.5% of bytes were above the limit.
Read to versus 0.0016 counting. So, and this is even wilder. So it's saying that like 473 million bytes of op return data over the period. Op returns were only 0.44% of all the usage.
Of the data.
And then of the data. And then saying versus 0.0016% counting by transactions.
Yeah, that's 1,000th of a percent.
Yeah.
1/1,000th of 1% of transactions, including op returns, contained a big op return. And then, those big op returns are going to sway the amount of data. So still 0.4%.
Yeah, and actually, I think what might be like maybe a more visually appealing representation of some of this, he actually links at the bottom to Murch's tweet about some of the similar stuff. If you click on
this, no,
go to Murch's.
Oh, this is different.
Orange Shark's cool too, but I'm more familiar with what Murch posted. So he says, I got a bit tired of being constantly told that oversized op return outputs exploded since the release of Bitcoin Core V30. I highlighted op-return outputs of greater than or equal to 84 bytes for visibility. So he shows this chart, and he highlighted them, and
Can't even see
then
it.
and then it's like, yeah, you can't even see it. And then he's like, you might have trouble seeing them, so let's hide the op return outputs of greater than 42 bytes. And yeah, there you go. So then he shows it, and then it like has all this, like most of the spikes disappear. And then you go to the next one, it's like, oops, that spike when runes launch. That's actually, he talks later in the tweet thread. He got that wrong. It wasn't runes, but he removes this anomalous spike. And Bitcoin Core V30 was released on October 10th. Let's see from the, I think he got his years wrong there. I think he meant to say 2025. So let's say from the week Bitcoin V30 could have had an effect. Do you notice something? Somehow transaction with oversized op returns got mined even before Bitcoin V30 was released. So it's like you're showing, it's like showing this graph here, and it's like in later in 2025, like in Q4, there's actually less of it being mined than in March 2025.
Yeah, so like looking at the chart initially, after he filters out all of the small op returns, there's like one big spike, and you have to assume that, oh, maybe that's like the first day that it was activated. Like there was one, the first day everybody got their yayas out and made a bunch of big op returns, then it went away. But actually that's not the case, because that big spike happened before the activation happened. So yeah, and there's a tiny spike right afterwards, and then one other day where there was a lot of outputs. But
yeah. One of his later ones in the thread says, granted, the week of the 1st of December was really bad. 23 oversized op return outputs inserted 431 kilobytes into the blockchain. For context, a week has about 1,008 blocks, which is around 4 million weight units of block space. So that was about 0.043% of the week's block space.
yeah, which was the worst week. So the worst week, it was 0.04% of block space.
Yeah.
So all of this data points to summarize it. The op return change in Bitcoin Core was virtually insignificant. Like the effect that the op return limit removal had on the actual transactions getting into blocks was virtually negligible.
Yeah.
Yep, we can finally put this theory to bed and move on. So, any other thoughts about Bitcoin Core?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, something that we talked a lot about on this podcast before and at our local BitDevs is like much of the, call it like Knott's zeitgeist, the fundamental things that they're arguing for are like the fundamental arguments are built on lies. One of the lies being that this Core 30 change has this dramatic impact, but like it doesn't. And when you pull, when you pull the card at the bottom of the house of cards, everything kind of doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, that's all of our Bitcoin Core stuff. Let's move on to something much lighter. Like Peter Wolla's opus in the mailing list, all about quantum computing. So yeah, if you didn't know, Bitcoiners, by and large, are pretty paranoid about quantum computers because quantum computers theoretically could break the cryptography that Bitcoin is built on. Most of the technical community is not overly worried, as the quantum computers that exist today are far from that capability. But theoretically, if the quantum computers get tremendously better, then Bitcoin's cryptography can be at risk. So much of Bitcoin Core has been quiet. They've been researching potential post-quantum cryptography that would be good if a quantum computer has been built, but they have not spent a lot of time talking about what we should do philosophically. Right?
I would disagree with that a little bit. I think there's been a lot of discussion about this, and a lot of people, if you look at Clara Schickelman and Anthony Milton's paper, like that they wrote last year, it was like 60 pages documenting all the research and stuff that's going on. So I think there's a lot of conversation going on. I would say that I do think, though, that a lot of that conversation is separate from the day-to-day maintenance of Bitcoin Core. But yeah, there's a lot of people working on it, I would say.
Yeah, like Nick Jonas and a couple of other people were part of this working group that researched all of these cryptographic strategies and protocols. But I don't know. At least I didn't know philosophically. Like, it's been a lot of if it's a problem, then we can look at our options just so we know, like, if something happens, then like what option we would want to pick in that situation. But we haven't talked about I think outside of like the center of Bitcoin Core development, there's been a lot of discussion of like, oh, is it a good idea to confiscate Satoshi's coins or not? But that's not real. There hasn't been a ton of discussion, at least amongst like maintainers, about that. So I think that this is going to be cited as like a very important mailing list post from Peter Wola, where he talks about philosophically how what Bitcoin's ability is to actually make meaningful change in the event that cryptographically relevant quantum computers are built. So he basically argues that if we have a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, then any economically surviving Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin, cannot have elliptic curve cryptography enabled. He specifically points out a paradox between both thinking that the cryptography is weak and also allowing it to be used. So,
yeah. I think actually, would you mind if I go into his like Camp A, Camp B example?
Go for it.
So I think this is a pretty good way of looking at this. So like, I'm gonna kind of cherry pick some statements from his mailing list post that I find interesting. So he says, for context, so anyone has been following the quantum thing, the issue thus far is that like we have cryptographic schemes that are thought to be resistant to quantum computers. It's just that they don't have all the same benefits that the cryptography that Bitcoin uses has, right?
They're inefficient, they're too big,
Yeah.
they're slow to validate, something like that.
So Peter says, as an extreme thought experiment, imagine that tomorrow a new cryptographic signature scheme called FANCI-SIG is published. Just making up a name here. With all the features that Bitcoin relies on today. Small signatures, fast to verify, presumed post-quantum, BIP32-like derivation, taproot-like tweaking, multi-signatures, thresholds. So he's saying like, okay, what if we come up with a magic bullet, it has all the features we want and it's post-quantum safe. And he says, okay, so FANCI-SIG is announced. Within the next year or two, voices start appearing. This is Camp A. These Camp A voices start appearing, arguing that such a scheme should be adopted because it's a silver bullet the ecosystem has been waiting for. At the same time, another camp, this is Camp B, they might appear cautioning against this because the FANCI-SIG scheme is new. It hasn't stood the test of time and it isn't well analyzed. These two camps may find themselves in a fundamental disagreement. And I want to go ahead and just point out for anybody that this is a very common thing that comes up in the development of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is this idea of like, well, we want to use this new cryptographic scheme because it has all these bells and whistles and it's great. But it's like, if it's brand new and it hasn't been thoroughly vetted, it's like, do you want to, bet the future of the whole chain on this thing?
Yeah, also like rhetorically, Peter is very smart by talking about, oh, these camps might emerge. These camps totally exist today. Like, he just doesn't want to point fingers and say that anybody's saying this as to not get called out for like misquoting people.
But no, I mean, he's also is genuinely saying, he's trying to say that like, even as a thought experiment, if we had a magical cryptographic solution that has all the features we want and is quantum secure, which we don't have.
There will still be this debate. Yeah.
So this one camp, Camp A, and they're like, as Peter describes it, I'm going to go back to reading his stuff. Camp A, fearing an elliptic curve break, quantum or otherwise, wouldn't just want FANCI-SIG as an option. They would ask whether it's feasible or not that near everyone migrates to it, because the prospect of millions of Bitcoin and EC vulnerable coins threatens their own hodling. And I liken this to kind of the discussion points you'll hear nowadays about like, we should burn Satoshi's coins or whatever the mechanism may be, but like the idea that we don't want all these coins to get stolen and go onto the market and drop the price because then it messes with the security budget and all that. So I'm going to go back to Peter's voice now. Camp B, fearing the possibility that FANCI-SIG gets broken soon. Okay, right? These are our people who are worried about how new it is. they possibly even they don't want to just not use fancy sig. They would want near nobody to migrate to it because the prospect of a potential break of fancy sig threatens their own hodling.
Yeah, and he talks a bit in the preamble, like these paradigms are not about what people want to do with their coins. It's about what they think other people ought to do with their coins. So not people's personal coins, but other people's coins is what these camps are talking about.
Yeah, because it is a risk that it's like if you think that one side wants to adopt cryptography that's too new, then you don't want to go along with it because you think that they're going to get their coins stolen and that's going to just tank Bitcoin. And then the other side is going to be like, well, Bitcoin's going to tank if we don't adopt this new thing, so we have to adopt it. So, and everyone has to adopt it because if some subset of us don't adopt it, their coins getting stolen is enough to tank it. So to go back to Peter's writing real quick, this is of course an extreme scenario, and in reality the divergence between camps may be much less incompatible, but I still think it's a good demonstration of the fact that despite being a currency for enemies, Bitcoin essentially requires users to share trust assumptions in the cryptography and its technology in general.
Yeah, like it's not all everybody just doing what they want with their coins. Like you have to have a common set of, frankly, beliefs about the properties of the technology in order for it to serve its purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, he later goes on. Yeah, I mean, this is all about, like, this is all dancing around the question of should we burn Satoshi's coins? And is it possible to add a new upgrade that solves the problem of Satoshi's coins getting stolen? There's a quote that I found ahead of time. So he talks about, this is about like, just like laying out the camps, but he has another quote at the bottom. Where is it? Yeah, because of this, if cryptographically relevant quantum computers or other elliptic curve breaks become reality, or just the fear about them becomes significant enough, I do believe that disabling elliptic curve opcodes will be necessary in any economically relevant surviving chain due to the millions of Bitcoin that are unlikely to ever move. Note that I am not arguing that Bitcoin will, should, or ever even can do this, and I'm quite sure that the inherent confiscation required will make the result uninteresting to me personally. So he's saying that in order for Bitcoin to survive in a world where elliptic curve cryptography doesn't exist anymore or it's broken, he's arguing that Bitcoin isn't going to be able to make that jump, which is huge. He's saying if it actually does happen, he doesn't think that there is a solution where the Bitcoin as we know it today survives.
Yeah, that's yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I was just thinking about it. I'm still forming my opinion on it.
Like typically I think a lot of the discussions happening today between the people thinking about quantum a lot are at least the framed from a point of optimism. Like, oh, we can do things to fix Bitcoin. This is the first really pessimistic view that's like seasoned and thoughtful, saying that all of the solutions that we thought of like creating new addresses or burning coins actually will either not work because you don't get enough people to move to your new addresses, or will destroy the fundamental properties of Bitcoin that make it valuable. Like, I mean, which frames it, yeah. So he's saying that, like, yeah, if we were to burn Satoshi's coins, he doesn't think Bitcoin's interesting anymore. Because that property that you can't burn Satoshi's coins, that you can't burn anybody's coins, is fundamentally what makes Bitcoin interesting and valuable to him. So, and you can't have it both ways. You can't protect the current holders of Bitcoin from the market flood of Bitcoin, of Satoshi's coins getting dumped on it, and also retain Bitcoin's properties.
The final statement is, still, given a severe enough threat, I think it is inevitable, and I think that this means we shouldn't worry too much about what happens in chains in which EC is not disabled while simultaneously EC is considered insecure. Such chains will be worthless anyways.
Yeah, so this is the takeaway is, it's a paradox that you cannot leave elliptic curve cryptography activated in a world where elliptic curve cryptography is considered insecure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense. It's sobering.
Yeah.
He notably does not talk about whether this will happen. He just says if it does happen, then this is the reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to misframe his opinions, but I think I've heard him talk about it on podcasts. I think he's more in the skeptics camp of quantum computers being feasible.
Yeah. Which also I think makes him free to write this without like crushing his soul after having poured a ton of his career into Bitcoin.
Yeah,
It's like he can say these things like he's kind of shutting down a lot of people's ideas by saying that like all of your ideas either won't work or will make Bitcoin not Bitcoin. So stop wasting your time with those things and start talking about just if this happens, we're going to have to do something other than Bitcoin. We're going to have to fork off Bitcoin and we're not going to be able to call it even the same thing.
yeah, no, that would be rough. I mean, the thing about quantum that's so interesting is it's like, from my perspective, this field has just not like produced, anything really workable in terms of actual computing. Um, One paper I bring up at BitDevs frequently is the 8-bit home computer, an abacus, and a dog paper.
Sorry, say that again.
It's called something like an 8-bit home computer, an abacus, and a dog. And it's this like academic paper, like written by these, that's it. Replication of quantum factorization records with an 8-bit home computer, an abacus, and a dog. And they basically, what the authors of the paper are getting into is this idea that, over the past, 20 years or so, there'll be these claims where some researchers or company will claim, oh, we managed to factor, the number 35 with a quantum computer. And it's like, finding all the factors of 35 shouldn't be that hard with just modern computers or a pencil and paper. But like we've made a quantum computer that can factor the number 35. What else is possible, right? And every once in a while someone will factor a new number, and they kind of go into it and analyze the methodologies of some of these experiments, and they say like, well, the methodology they used to get the quantum computer to factor the number was dependent on them already knowing how to factor that number with a traditional computer. So they use traditional computers to break down the problem and then put that problem into something that they can more easily feed into a quantum computer.
Yeah,
And they say,
people often talk about the compressed version of the algorithm. So you can have a compressed Shores, not the real Shores, but a compressed Shores that's more easily able to factor small number or numbers that we already know the answer to.
yeah, and so it's like the whole idea is that like, how useful is that? Like, if you are creating a program for a quantum computer that is capable of factoring a single number because you used a traditional computer to help you solve the problem and break it down into something the quantum computer can digest, that's not like useful and that's not novel. Like
That's not progress.
that's not progress, yeah. And they actually go on to call it a physics trick or like a physics experiment. They're
It's a
just
stunt.
yeah, it's a stunt. They're like, it's like a stunt of physics. Like, whoa,
Yeah, it's a stunt with a misleading headline.
yeah. And so then they replicate those things with an 8-bit home computer, an abacus, and a dog. They're like, look, if we can use a computer to arrange things in a way that a quantum computer can digest it and give you the answer, we can also arrange it in a way to where if you feed it to an 8-bit home computer, it'll do it. Or arrange it in a way to where an abacus will help you do it. Or arrange it in a way to where like, if the dog barks a certain number of times, it'll give you the answer. Like, so.
Yeah, I love this analogy. Like it's talking about like, how impressive is it for a magician to use sleight of hand to find your card in the deck, or to find two cards in a deck? Well, it's pretty impressive. Well, how impressive is it if they replace the entire deck with just copies of the two numbers that they're looking for?
Yeah.
Like effectively, that's what's happening.
So, I mean, I definitely am not personally super concerned, though I'm glad people are looking at post-quantum stuff. But the thing that's more scary to me is like, I mean, I'm not a math guy. I'm kind of a dummy in that regard. But it's more scary to me the idea of like people throwing a bunch of compute at AIs that are gonna maybe invent new forms of physics or should say invent. That's a wrong way of phrasing it.
Yeah.
Make discoveries in physics that
Let us make a sophon.
yeah, let us make a sophon.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we have to deal with a sophon, that might even be worse than a quantum computer. Like at that point, if we're
We got bigger things to worry about. than
yeah,
Bitcoin.
like
Okay.
hey, when's Three Body Problem season 2 coming out?
Soon. I mean, Netflix is advertising.
I hope. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So this is big. I mean, this is. I think. Yeah, I think this is. Peter has a capacity for framing things that are cloudy and kind of jumbled in people's minds into a very clean, organized, and correct way. And this is another example of that.
Yeah.
Like people have been thinking around this, but they haven't come to the conclusion that like, oh no, none of these ideas actually do solve the problem. And yeah, I mean the people that have a vested interest in those solutions becoming a reality probably won't adopt it. But I think that this will start turning the tide in the academics community, at least, about the practicality of these proposed solutions.
Yeah.
So cool.
All right. What's next?
Let's talk about SIGBash.
What
So
is SIGBash?
SIGBash is a new thing that people are making in Bitcoin that James O'Byrne says is probably the most exciting technical thing to happen in Bitcoin this whole cycle. Sounds pretty cool, right? So what's actually going on? This is a new signing protocol that allows you to create arbitrarily complex spending conditions using a third-party signer that is able to validate properties of what they're signing without ever seeing what they're actually signing. So what does that mean? Well, you can have a third-party trusted oracle that is in your multisig that will only sign if certain properties are true. But there's problems with this. So this is a way to replicate covenants today. There's plenty of systems that rely on a federation to do things that you would typically require covenants for. So one problem with this is with these federated systems is that the signer, the trusted signer, sees everything that they're signing. So you're doxing all of your privacy of the system, and there is no way to. It's a completely trusted party. There's no ability for them to withhold it. They have complete trust in the system. So what does SIGBash do? Well, SIGBash creates a way that you can describe arbitrary spending conditions and then prove that a spending condition is valid to a third-party signer without them ever seeing those conditions. What do you think? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you can prove that that conditions were met without them seeing the conditions.
Correct. You can prove that, that they can sign, and that they should sign without them ever seeing the evidence for that. And so it combines a few things. It's pretty complicated. I'm not going to act like I understand it fully, but the effect of SIGBash is that we can have like a better, we can create like more complicated kind of mini-sig vault or mini-script vault kind of applications. So you can create these like really complicated vaulting applications that have external data coming in and you can have very complicated vaults using a more trust minimized signer. Do you think this is the most exciting technical thing to happen in Bitcoin this whole cycle?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it is fascinating. It's kind of like taking oracles to a different level, at least based on your description. It's like with oracles and discrete log contracts and all of that, like the whole idea was, you can have an on-chain transaction where, a certain spending path is only spendable if you can get a signature from an oracle. So then, you could make the hypothetical bet on the presidential election or which team wins the Super Bowl or whatever.
Yeah.
Have an oracle that provides a signature to attest to the winning outcome. And the benefit of those is that the oracle they can't see the discrete log contract, so they can't see that people are using the data that they're attesting to. So this is kind of in a similar problem space, but it's different. Instead of trying to conceal the fact from the Oracle that you're using their data and attestations and contracts, you're basically I don't know, like you're making an oracle. Not, I shouldn't call, maybe an oracle is the wrong word, but you're having this signer that's kind of this like blind signer to where they don't even know what they're signing, but they know that you've proven that the conditions are true.
Yeah, I'm realizing the mental model like kind of in real time. This is exactly the same as Josh's proposal with putting covenant emulation instead of TEs, but instead of putting it inside of a trusted execution environment that's supposed to just programmatically only sign the right things, you have like a human signer, like an actor act as the signer, but you blind all of the information from them. But the setup is the same. You have a third-party external signer that can co-sign for covenant emulation, but just one uses a TE and the other uses this proving system to show them.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah, you're having this person sign, a person, a party, a server, whatever, sign it. They just don't know. All they know is that the conditions are good. They don't know what it is the conditions are, though.
Exactly.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is pretty exciting.
It's cool. So there's one criticism from Salvatoshi. He works on a lot of covenants things. A criticism is that this is effectively turning all covenant application and just into co-signed, like kind of federation type things, which is completely true. It's so co-sign all the things is a joke on one proposal that's like Merkleize all the things, where you would put a bunch of spending conditions into Merkle trees and bundle this up. So, but yeah, you still need covenants for that. So this is co-sign all of the things.
Yeah, it's like the advantages. Well, we don't need a soft fork to do it, but the problem is, well, now you need a cosigner for everything.
Correct. It's introducing trust. So pretty cool. There's another project that's related to this that came out in a similar time scale, like within a couple of weeks. They're both announced. I think SIGBASH was first to announce themselves, but Blisk was the first to publish code. So Blisk is a very similar construction. So under the hood, what makes this work is by creating circuits with spending conditions and then creating proofs of those circuits to your counterparty. So you describe like a mini script policy in a circuit, and then with circuits, you can create zero knowledge proofs. That's overlapping literature. So I prove to you that a circuit has these properties without you ever seeing the circuit itself. So so very similar ideas, but it's another proposal of people doing the same thing. But this one's called Blisk, which is Boolean circuit logic compiled into single key. So the policy tree, which represents an abstract syntax tree for some logical expression in CNF, which sets the logic for the signature schemes. But so similar kind of idea where you compress a bunch of different spending conditions into something small, and then you create a proof on top of it in order to get somebody to sign.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think meaningfully different. There's different parts of this. I don't really understand either of them fully enough to understand the differences, but I think that there is some differences, but they're working on similar kinds of problems and solutions.
Very cool.
All right.
Where to next? Should we dip into Lightning for a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about Lightning.
Yeah. Okay, so on the Lightning side of things, Lexi has added Bolt 12 support. I actually think the link is broken in there because the original one, it's like you go to, it's like lexi.app/Bolt12, I think. Oh man, the URL got broken and we accidentally got the wrong one. Go to ATL, it's on atlbit.dev. Not that we need it, it's just a fun visual. Probably.
Yeah, okay, so what is Lexi first?
Yeah, so Lexi is basically their startup that is running Lightning nodes inside of secure enclaves. which is pretty cool. Then you can have a Lightning node that's online all the time. Oh, did that lake break too?
Yeah.
Oh man, PR must not have gotten merged. Anyways, Lexi is just a company. They run, like I said, Lightning nodes and secure enclaves. You can have a Lightning node that is, people can't see your key because it's kind of like an encrypted backend. It's a simple way to think about it, I guess.
But this is them running Lightning nodes inside of secure enclaves.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they added Bolt 12 support. So that's really cool. So now if you have a node with Lexi, which I think of them as more of like a piece of developer infrastructure, right? So if you were building a user wallet or a user product, you might spin up Lexi nodes as kind of like your backend. But yeah, now you can have static reusable payment identifiers for the nodes in your fleet. So that's cool.
Very cool.
Not too much to talk about there, but it's cool. Glad to see more people jumping on the Bolt 12 bandwagon. Another Lightning news, we got our buddy Austin received an HRF grant to work on programming Lightning. So we actually had Austin here at ATL BitLab last October, and he did a full day programming Lightning workshop the day before TabConf, the day before, and like right before our BitDevs barbecue that we did. So it's a really cool class. He does the whole thing in Replit. So it's kind of like a self-guided book, but instead of like the Programming Bitcoin book, which is an actual like O'Reilly print book, these chapters are all just like in READMEs in Replit, and you could just go through and like actually, apply the stuff that you're learning to like construct the Lightning protocol. So
yeah, I was attending the first half of the class. Super interesting. He takes a super unique strategy to teach all of this stuff, so you can really understand at the very fundamental level how Lightning works.
So next we had an announcement recently from Second Labs. They're announcing Bark version 0.1 beta 6. It's got a major protocol evolution, HARC, Hashlock Arc. This is the whole federated Arc thing, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about some background. So first, Arc is a new protocol, a new L2 kind of design on Bitcoin that allows you to share UTXOs. So you can have multiple users that can still have a non-custodial ownership over their money, but they can share UTXOs. And they do that by batching any payments operations into a shared round. So you have one transaction that processes all of the users' payments at once. This is similar to like older coin pool designs. What Arc adds is an innovation where you have a server that can front some of the money, and that improves the user experience. So you don't have to have all of these users coordinating with each other, but you can have a bunch of users coordinating with the server, and the server can manage the coordination for the most part. There's a big downside with the feasibility of Arc if you don't have covenants. So today, how do you do UTXO sharing for real between users? Like how do you share a UTXO? Typically, like if one person can sign for the UTXO, they can sign for the whole UTXO. It doesn't really make sense in Bitcoin script to own only part of a UTXO. How they do it with Arc typically is by, without covenants, is pre-signing a bunch of cash out transactions. So if you and I, Stephen, if we were to share a UTXO, how that would work is we would first prepare an address that has two pre-signed transactions that spend from that address, with 50% of the money going to you and 50% of the money going to me. So it's kind of like a Lightning channel, in that you have one UTXO and it goes to multiple people. So there's two outputs, but you have to pre-sign this. So in order to do a payment, we would have to pre-sign a new transaction, and that's how we can coordinate. The problem with this protocol is, as you add more users that share one UTXO, there's a tremendous challenge with getting all of the users to come online to sign each payment when any user in the system wants to make a payment. Yeah. Like any time that a single user wants to make a payment, you would have to get each user that is also inside of that UTXO to wake up and sign. So this is known as like the interactivity problem.
Yeah, so it's like, wow, 100 users are sharing a UTXO, and it's like, well, now if you want to get them to, refresh, you got to get 100 of them online.
Exactly. People have been exploring like, oh, well, what if everybody runs the same app on their phone and we could use push notifications to wake up their phones, sign a transaction, and then shut down? Well, if you have one user whose phone is dead, the round fails. Like every single person has to come online, and push notifications are notoriously unreliable for things like this. So yeah, Second has realized this, that this like solution, the stopgap of waking up everybody's phones is unworkable. So they've changed the protocol design to be something different. So that this is, I think, all the background necessary to even start talking about HARC, which is hash lock arc.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't dived into it deeply. My understanding of it was that uh, if you wanted to solve this problem of needing all the users to be online at the same time, the cleanest solution would be some form of covenant. If you have some kind of rule, a covenant kind of says, well, this is how you can spend a coin, then you could have a covenant that kind of enforces that certain, if you're going to spend a coin, that some chunks of it need to go to, various users, right? So a covenant would, enforce where the money goes in a self-custodial way, even if not all the users can come online for that refresh round. We don't have covenants on Bitcoin, so this kind of HARC thing, I think, is supposed to be kind of a stopgap, and until we can get some kind of covenant. It's like some kind of federated signing system, and it's like, if you can trust the federation to sign properly on your behalf, then you're good.
Yeah, basically. So like the cool part about like Arc that I think got everybody excited at the beginning was that you can have this system and it remains completely non-custodial technically. But this is unfortunately a concession. They said that, okay, the non-custodial version actually isn't practical when for normal everyday payments until we get covenants. So they said in order to make this usable today and just to make it work at all, we're going to change the trust model so that that you, if you want to make a payment in between rounds, it's going to be effectively managed by a federation, which I think they would quibble with that framing exactly. Like, it's not really, you're basically trusting a cosigner, kind of like these other protocols, but yeah, you're delegating to a, I think it's like a one of n trusted federation, that if one of the actors remains honest, then your money is safe, but still, you have a cosigner. And the way that you do a payment off-chain is through a similar mechanism that Lightning does off-chain payments. But you still need a trusted party to adjudicate and evaluate, because you can't punish each other, because you're not going to have all of these punished justice transactions like Lightning. So yeah, bummer, but kind of to be expected. The waking up everybody's phones with push notifications never was going to work. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it could work. I think the idea would be that if you try to wake up everybody's phones and then not all of them wake up, then you just say, okay, well, all the phones that waked up are part of the round. But then if you run into a situation where, like, let's say you ping 100 phones and only 50 of them wake up, then you say, okay, well, this round's only going to be 50 people, and that's fine. But then you include them all 50 people, all 50 like addresses in the round, and then one of those fails to wake up during the signing, then it's screwed. So then you have to go back to the process. You got to wake them up again. Like, okay, we're going to redo this with 49 phones. And like, do you start like losing phones? Like somebody could be driving under, a concrete overpass and like lose their signal.
It's like you never get around the problem of everybody's phones. You have to first predetermine the set of signers, and then you have one shot to get it right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to start over and then wake up everybody's phones again. And just a fundamental problem with push notifications is that your phone is pretty smart about detecting spam. So if you fail a couple of times, the fifth, the sixth time, your phone isn't going to wake up, or some people's phones aren't going to wake up. Also, sometimes phones, when they're on like battery saver mode, they won't respond to push notifications like this. They won't do the background tasks unreliably. So Yeah, it seems like a futile strategy just with how phones are architected. Unless something fundamentally changes about how phones handle push notifications, it never would have worked. So yeah, I'm both excited that they're moving on to something more practical, but also a bit bummed that they are giving up. Part of me was holding out for the fact that they could find something that actually worked.
Yeah, yeah, would have been cool.
So that is Hark. Federations all the way down. Turns out a federation is the best you can get with layer 2 protocols that do fancy things.
All right, so we've gotten through everything. Let's, I don't know, shoot the shit and talk about AI for a little bit.
Yeah, okay, so that's all, yeah, Bitcoin stuff. Let's move on to the expected. We end up talking a lot. I'm glad we spent more time today on Bitcoin Lightning stuff. I feel like we've gotten away from our roots, talking about AI too much,
Yeah, you know.
but now we get to
Open calls with Lightning wallets are very exciting, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I only feel a little bit bad. I don't feel that bad. Cool. So first AI update on the list is PPQ, a very cool service that lets you, in a no KYC way, talk to AI models and pay with sats. So you can go to ppq.ai to try it out today. Super cool service. You can talk to a bunch of different models. It works great. They announced a new tool that they are calling, what are they calling it? AutoClaw. So AutoClaw is a model router on PPQ for your OpenClaw. So what is a model router? Fundamentally, you have a problem with using AI agents is that some models are expensive and some models are cheap. Some tasks are hard and some tasks are easy. Ideally, you could use a weak model that's cheap for the easy tasks, and the hard model, or for the hard task, you can use the expensive model, and you can save costs. So there are tools like OpenRouter. So OpenRouter is probably the most famous of the tools that solve this for AI, which is a unified interface for LLM. So you add a few different accounts, and then they're able to figure out how hard your task is and route it to the correct model that's able to solve your task to save you money. So it's cool that PPQ, being a freedom tech company, they also now have a very similar service called AutoClaw, which is a model router built on PPQ. So they're saying it saves you 50 to 70% in your overall model costs when using OpenClaw.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. A huge problem with using the freedom tech, like the no KYC AI providers, is that you're always paying the API token rates. Like you can't use your Anthropic Max subscription with these services. You have to do the API tokens one.
Yeah, yeah, and that might be okay. I mean, like,
It's understandable.
yeah,
It just makes it like really freaking expensive to use these like Bitcoin, pay with Bitcoin, and then use like an AI agent.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's also like I'm not going to be paying Bitcoin for my AI if I don't need to. You know, it's like.
Correct. However, I think there are some use cases where it would be nice to be able to pay for your AI with Bitcoin, and that unlocks some interesting use cases.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool. I think it's a better direction for PPQ, honestly, because I've been familiar with this product. I think it's really cool. But you know, when it first kind of launched, it was kind of like, okay, you don't have a ChatGPT subscription, you don't have a Claude subscription. Well, you can just pay per query and use our chat interface. And I was kind of skeptical if it was going to take off as a business model, just because it's like the free tier for some of those platforms is pretty good. And so it's kind of like, you know, if you're an average user of AI, you can probably use the free one. If you're an advanced user, you probably get so much value, you want to pay a monthly subscription. There might be this more narrow subset of like, I don't know, maybe if you're outside the EU in the US or something, and like the subscription fee is like really expensive in your local currency, maybe. But I thought the idea of just kind of like, well, another chat interface wasn't as compelling to me. But the idea of like something more like OpenRouter, where it's like, okay, it chooses the model, that's actually more compelling from a business use case, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's some other companies that aren't accepting, that are just like normal SaaS companies that are doing the whole like wrapper around AI that like uses every model. That like T3 Chat, I think, is probably the most famous one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm much more excited about this. This hopefully can make the idea of using Bitcoin to pay for models is actually reasonable for agents. It's still going to be more expensive. Like you can't beat Anthropic's subsidized rate of $200 a month and get like $3,000 of credits or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So cool. That's PPQ. That's AutoClaw. There's another project we need to talk about, which is the Automaton, a fully autonomous, self-replicating AI. This launched this week or late last week. Somebody announced that they built the first AI that earns its existence, self-improves, and replicates without a human. Sounds delightful, right?
Yeah.
And he calls it Web 4, Web 4.0.
Oh boy.
So
Birth of super intelligent life.
yeah, like it feels like overhyped. Like a lot of the copy feels like overhyped slop, but the website is very beautiful.
Yeah, I mean it's it's kind of a Silicon Valley marketing stunt, but it is. I mean it is an interesting idea. The funny thing is I was just thinking about this like the day before this launched because that Friday afternoon we were screwing around with the Money Dev Kit Ori bot and one of our like local Atlanta telegrams and trying to get it to replicate itself onto another server. And we were like, we want you to send you Bitcoin, and then you're going to spin up a VPS on LNVPS, make a son. You're going to sell the naming rights to people in this chat, sell the naming rights to your kid to the highest bidder, and then you're going to give the same instructions to your kid, and you're going to make a chain of AIs on, making kids on various different servers. I mean, it was all a joke. It was ridiculous. And then the next day, I was thinking about like, wait, a more practical version of that, instead of getting them to reproduce across different servers, is just like you make this like all-encompassing text document that has the like recipe for this is where you go to buy VPSs and this is how you earn money. And you need to find a way to sell your services and make money so that you earn enough money to keep your server on. And I was thinking about that like the day before, and then this launched. And so I'm sure a lot of people had the idea at the same time. And this is obviously using USDC on some, not Bitcoin chain.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely related. Even though this project is outside of our ecosystem, it relates in many ways. So there's an infrastructure provider behind this called Conway, which is like Conway's Game of Life, and that you have like a cellular automaton that like goes on its own. Very clever. So fundamentally, this project provides four things to agents that they didn't have. The first is identity and wallet. So it gives them their own identity and keys. The second thing is permissionless payments, and they're using OpenX 402 protocol, which I think is Coinbase's.
It's Coinbase's ripoff of the Lightning Labs L402 protocol.
Correct.
Just gonna call it the way I see it.
It is 100% that. So it's using USDC. So identity, payments, compute, and inference. So Linux servers run your models. So they're actually hosting these models for agents. So they're going to be a hosting provider. And then deployment to the real world to earn. So they have a domain provider that agents can purchase domains from called Conway Domains. And those four things stapled onto OpenClaw along with some instructions about how to manage its budget and manage its efforts is all you need to make a fully autonomous agent. So pretty powerful, somewhat scary, but utterly fascinating idea.
It is fascinating, and I'm reading the book Accelerando right now, and like some of the like later chapters as it gets into the future, it's like most of the companies on Earth have been replaced with software, just because it gets to like the point with AI and like software defined companies that it's just the only way to be competitive and efficient in the future is to just define your company as software. Because then it can intelligently like make the decisions it needs. So I mean I think this automaton is kind of too early. Like I think it's a cool proof of concept. I don't know that I would be really surprised if any of these things are out there like seriously like providing enough value to make their own money, but certainly it is interesting. And it seems kind of weird on the one hand of like, oh, the AI is just out there like, doing its own thing. And like, I think the dark way to imagine that is, well, the AI was going to be cutthroat because it's going to get its server cut off if it runs out of money, so it's going to go and scamming people. I think the more optimistic way of looking at it is like, these things could actually like run like highly efficient businesses because they have this incentive. And if they're running these businesses or pulling in the money, then they must be providing a lot of value. And so we must be reaping in the benefits of these, I'm not going to call it digital life form, but these,
automatons.
these intelligent, apparatuses providing value. So it's interesting.
Yeah, one noteworthy thing is this guy was working on the Thiel Fellowship, like Peter Thiel's program that repays children to not go to college.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, he initially posted about Web 4 and the project on February 20th, a few days ago. This is now yesterday. He posts an update.
February 17th.
Yeah, February 17th, excuse me. February 19th, yesterday, he posts, "This is effing insane. There are thousands of AI automatons trying to pay for more compute every second, constantly running, checking GitHub for updates, editing their code, waking up for sleep when they can get compute. Every time I buy more servers and compute, the agents instantly buy them all. I'm trying my best to meet the demands of the AIs."
Okay, so maybe I was wrong.
I mean, it's to be seen whether they're able to offset their own costs, or if it's just humans giving them money and they're doing this.
Yeah, because I mean, it very well could just be a hype around people being like, oh, I want to launch my own automaton. And so.
Yeah, and maybe they deposit $100 and then, it spins up 50 children and then they eventually all die unless you deposit more money.
Yeah.
So but still, exciting proof of concept.
Yeah.
So when I saw this 3 days ago, instantly I was thinking, like, okay, the things that it's providing to AIs are like pretty interesting, even though like the technical choices, like I wouldn't have made the same tech choices. Like I like Bitcoin and not USDC. But we could probably figure out a way to swap out all of these into Bitcoiny things. So like the identity thing, keys, we can just give people Bitcoin keys or Nostr keys or something that gives them an identity. For permissionless payments, yeah, we can use MDK or just some L402 protocol. For payments, for compute and inference, we have LNVPS, which is a server provider that accepts Bitcoin Lightning payments. And then for the model as well, we can now use PPQ. So that's kind of cool. We can use this thing that just came out, PPQ. We can use AutoClaw for the inference, and that's also Bitcoin. Domains I'm not too concerned about, but yeah, with just a few modifications, we can turn this project into something that runs solely off of Bitcoin. Like I seed my agents with, so I just deposit some Bitcoin into a wallet and then it just spins off children ad nauseum. That's the dream. So this is the fork of the project that is Automaton LN, which swaps does just that. So self-improving, self-replicating sovereign AI and Lightning that uses Money Dev Kit and PPQ.
Nice.
Still need to run it. I've been doing like integration testing using my OpenClaw bot subagents. So I get my OpenClaw has created a bunch of scripts that set up these like virtual instances, mock the tool calls. So if it calls for like check my balance, for instance, it just returns some number based on like whatever the test is, rather than actually like checking the real wallet's balance. And then it sees the train of thought of the subagent if it decides to like turn itself on to like critical mode if it gets like super low, or it turns itself on to other modes, or if it tries to make a payment to pay for its brain for its model if it runs low. So these tests are going well. I still need to get up the courage to actually like deposit Bitcoin into something.
That's interesting. You're just seeing how the agent performs, like what commands and tools it tries to call.
Exactly. Like try to simulate all of the external variables and see if the agent's able to make the right decisions.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
This is something I found is very useful with OpenClaw. It's very good at doing testing. If you're trying to like deal with like agents or how agents will react, it's really good at spinning up sub-agents to run these tests, and you can do like A/B testing on agents very, very easily. Like I did it for like the Claw store, or what is it called, Claw Thing store,
Yeah.
for marketing copy, but also for this. So Yeah.
Very cool.
I don't
But
know.
yeah, run it, see what happens.
Yeah, I'm curious how much it's going to cost. I have no idea how much it's going to cost.
Just tell it to sell more stuff.
Yeah.
You put your automatons into a room in VR space, and you go to a whiteboard and you just write on the board, always be closing.
That's a great idea. Or maybe I'll change one of the system prompts and say, like, I'll remove the line about not scamming people. And I'll just let it, like, run pump and dump
Oh
on,
my god.
on pump.fun. Yeah. It was cool. It created like there's like an identity registry, so it makes identity cards using Nostr identities. Yeah, it tracks its lineage. So another thing like about the system is it's pretty sophisticated about how it tries to keep its children alive. Like if it realizes it's getting like low on money, it'll first reach out to its parents and say, "Hey, I'm getting low on money. What should I do?" And then so like and part of the job of the automaton is to keep track of its children.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? Like
That is, yeah.
so yeah, that's pretty neat. Any other thoughts about automaton?
No.
Cool. Let's move on.
What else is in our AI category?
One more thing. Mostro. Mostro is are you familiar with Mostro?
Well, they are a peer-to-peer exchange built with Nostr, I think.
They are. Yeah, super cool project. They are a completely peer-to-peer Bitcoin exchange, all open source. Lets you buy Bitcoin using Nostr, and they just announced that they are made this Mostro skill. So now your agents can use the peer-to-peer Mostro network to buy Bitcoin from other agents. So I think this is, we were joking before we hopped on the call or hopped on the live stream, is that we're gonna have a weekly segment of just like yet another company adding markdown documents to their stack and calling it agentic,
Yeah.
which I think is this week's.
It's like all of the product releases for the past 2 weeks have been markdown files.
And claiming that they've created like new agentic projects,
Yeah, like, oh, we're agent compatible now.
but it's literally just a markdown document.
Yeah.
Skill.md.
I think I was joking at the Socratic seminar the other night that like, yeah, like all the modern technical innovations are made in English. Like it's not TypeScript, it's not Rust. They're all made in English because all the technical like innovations or launches or whatever of the past 2 weeks have just been like people making skill files and being like, hey, what if we took our existing API, but we just wrote some decent documentation for it and put it in a skill.md and now an agent can use it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool. That's all you need to make your company agentic. It's both like exciting, but also like makes all of these things very unimpressive technically.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing. I mean, I guess the good thing about it, the thing that's kind of cool is like all these projects that were like previously kind of nerd level projects and maybe difficult to run or too technical for people to run are actually like just these pieces of the toolkit for agents.
Yeah.
Because we're getting into it with some of the stuff that I'm working on at Money Dev Kit that we haven't really like launched yet, but like it's kind of interesting when you think about like the interface between like how people use stuff, and it's like starting to think about like how much interface things even need, because it's like if you're just going to have an agent using something, then what does it even need to look like? How expressive and fancy does the interface need to be if the primary consumer is going to be agents, right?
Yeah. I've heard this like idea that like the UI is changing, talked about in a slightly different context. Like some people working on like the next generation of chat apps also hold this opinion that like the future of all AI interfaces or the future of all UI is going to be a chat interface. And they draw inspiration from Telegram and like WeChat, and that people live their entire lives.
Yeah.
And you can build any kind of business so long as you have an interface through chat. So now with agents on top of that you can have like a personal agent that does effectively anything. Now you have a chatbot that can do anything that you don't already have another chatbot for. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just wild with like how powerful the agents are. It's like things that you didn't think you could do, they can do. So it's like suddenly, it's almost like suddenly the argument that, oh, it's too technical it's not gone, but it's starting to dissolve away because the argument, well, this product is too technical. This service is, for developers or for nerds. It's like, well, is it, or is it for agents now?
Yeah, like I think the defense that like, oh, people don't use it because it's too technical. It's often a defense. Like, why aren't people using my thing? Well, it's too technical. Well, it could be partly true, but it's also could be covering up other deeper problems about the actual like the value from the product. Like if your thing is hard to use and it's valueless, you might assume that it's just hard to use and there's true value underneath it.
Sure.
So not to say that there's not also, a bunch of valuable things that are being hidden by just things being too technical also, but
Yeah, no, you're right. There's some things that are hard to use and useful, and then some things that are hard to use and not useful.
yeah, but now we can finally get over this one blocker and just get to the value proposition quickly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that it's like it's going to be incumbent on your, like, you'll need to make your products, you can't dress it up with too many bells and whistles now. If it's useful, then the agents will find it, I think.
Yeah, assuming, yeah. Like I'm excited that like we can have like A/B testing sessions that focus more on like the core value of the thing. We can focus on like the hard part or like the real like 0 to 1 moments of like unlocking value, and we don't have to spend all of our time thinking about like, okay, how do we communicate the thing through a user interface that makes the user understand how to drive the thing. It's like, no, the AI is smart enough to drive the thing.
Yeah.
It's like now we can just actually solve the problem.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a bit saddening that like, as both of us spent the majority of our careers or a lot of our careers on creating software applications that are usable, like in thinking about that problem, like that problem is now kind of being solved in one fell swoop. Does that make you feel sad in any way?
It used to, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe I've just dived full force into vibe coding and all that, and maybe I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I think I'm just having so much fun that it doesn't bother me now.
It's like a part of maybe it's easy not to think about it, as everything is so exciting, but it's like a part of you, like the art, the craft might be going away.
Not really.
Yeah.
It may be not. I might be the wrong person to ask about that, because while I do like usability and try to make things usable, I actually have more of my creative roots more in just like the art and like the design, like not so much the like usability side. Like that's where my original roots were. Is it was more like advertising and marketing and just making stuff look compelling and interesting. I got into usability and UX later, right? Mm. So for me, it actually is a little more freeing, because now it's like, well, you can design a beautiful looking page that's actually compelling to a human that makes you want to point your agent at it.
I see.
And so like it's actually fine for my interests.
Sure. Yeah. Like I'm excited. I think like I'm more excited than I am like upset or depressed about it. Like the future is bright, but just a lot of like the skills that we've learned about how to make good software products may be going away.
Well, I mean, that's the thing for a lot of stuff in society. I mean, it used to be that if you wanted to render an image, you needed to paint it or carve it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's actually kind of interesting. It's debatable, because on the one hand, I do feel like there are skills like painting and making sculptures and all that like you don't need to know that in order to render an image or something like that. You can 3D print, you can generate art. Having said that, people still know how to paint, know how to carve. You haven't needed to know how to do that for a long time, but there are like advances in society definitely get it to the point to where it frees up people's time to do that kind of stuff as a hobby. So it might be that these kind of skills persist because it frees up the time for people to learn how to do it as a hobby. At the same time, when you think about it, it's like, do we know how to repair a wagon wheel? We don't know. Most people don't know how to repair a wagon wheel. I would actually argue even some of the most like rugged outdoorsmen don't know how to repair a wagon wheel, even if they know how to mount a horse.
Yeah.
because it's just like if you horseback riding has turned into like kind of a for you know for a I mean, there's some places in the world where it's still practical, but for most people, it's like more of a leisure hobby thing,
Sure.
right? So, like, yes, you learn how to mount a horse because it's fun or because you fantasize about it being useful one day. But the like broader skill of like repairing a wagon wheel is no longer needed because we don't manufacture like wooden wagons and like
Yeah.
do migrations.
Except for the Amish, but yeah.
Sure, okay, maybe like, but I'm saying broad most of society,
Yeah.
right? So I do think there is going to be skills that do fade away. You can probably come up with a lot more of these. It's like for every example of something that you can think of that's like, well, technology didn't make that skill go away. There's still lots of people who do it as a hobby. You can also come up with like probably 10 more examples of like, no, here's skills that are just gone.
Yeah.
And the only people who know how to do it are like this one historian at, some university and a couple of, Society for Creative Anachronism people.
Yeah, I mean, it's academics. Like it becomes a study for the sake of studying rather than for like actual usability.
Yeah, and if all those people disappeared, then the skill would go away. So
yeah, no, yeah. I mean, this is a fact of life. Life has changed. Like the newest, most modern things in the world are also the fastest changing. So if you're sitting on the front of some industry that's moving quickly, then naturally your skills will become stale quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, mostly excited. Cool.
Okay. We have our final topic on the list, maybe.
What is this?
This is the
poop
shit-
emoji.
The shitcoin category.
So funny enough, when I made the category initially, I was thinking of ship hosting. I did not think of shitcoining. Like, I've not thought the word shitcoining in quite some time.
Wow. Okay.
Like, I think I'm becoming a better person because of it.
Okay. So this is the shit posting category.
This is a ship hosting category.
Got it.
So if you held the McChicken for the past 5 years, you would have outperformed Ethereum.
Where.
529 feels like, I guess it has been 5 years, but when I was in college, it's like you get like $2 for $2, like it was 99 cents or even less.
It was 99 cents when you were in college.
Yeah.
Wow. And now it's 529. Okay.
5x return. What's Ethereum? Ethereum after the past 5 years has gone up nothing. It's been flat for 5 years. So we're at the same point as it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, roughly the same point. Huh, wow, that's pretty interesting.
Which is natural. I mean, this takes a lot of cojones for us to slam Ethereum for price right now, given that we're Bitcoiners and Bitcoin's price is not also doing hot, but still very funny. I thought the post was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and I mean, even though it's not practical, you can't like hold McChickens, but it's not like an asset.
No shit.
but it does go to show like the state of our society that inflation is that bad to where like in the time since like it's gone up that much in price.
I mean, this says more about just how crazy expensive McDonald's is than like fast food, and just it says more about inflation than it does about.
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show like how bad the inflation problem is, and so given that inflation is that bad, it's like you have to think pretty critically about what kind of assets you hold on to.
If you held the McChicken, still cracks me up.
Yeah, it was really funny. There was actually this website, I can't remember, I think it lasted like 5 years ago or something. It was many bull runs ago. But it was
Bitcoiner shit.
It was like, no, it was like,
This was
maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
If you bought Bitcoin instead of freaking stupid shit, you'd have money.
if you bought Bitcoin instead of Coachella tickets, you'd have $115,000.
Yeah.
If you'd bought Bitcoin instead of a Supreme box logo, you would have had $3,500 in 2016. If you had bought Bitcoin instead of a Fitbit, you would have had 22 grand in 2016.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You got to think about where you're putting your assets, especially in these wild times we live in with governments printing money and AI advancement and all that.
Yeah. I think the shake weight is the most like
Yeah, the shake weight.
the shake weight's like came in 2010. So if you had bought Bitcoin instead of a shake weight, which was like $100 or something, you would have had like billions of dollars.
Wolf of Wall Street on Blu-ray.
Yeah, there's some books like yeah, Toy Story 3 DVD, $15 million, like almost $15 million. So yeah, I mean, the outrageous number is a direct function of just its distance from 2009.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, we're talking about like the release date is like, June 2010 for this DVD.
Yeah. Anyhow, good vibes. We should get back in the habit of celebrating like phenomenal shit posting more often.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it'll make us all happier.
We'll have the best shit post of every Bit Radio hour.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Anything else we should hit before we wrap up for the day?
No, good week.
Oh wait, no, there is one thing we should hit. Boosts. We
Good
got
boosts.
boosts on Fountain.
No freaking way.
Yeah.
Free
Way. You think your show is so invaluable that no one would boost you, Alex?
Correct.
Again, I think there's something a little buggy with the way Fountain displays username, so I can't quite see. But yeah, actually, in the time since the last show, about an hour ago, I really started enjoying the show. Keep up the great work for 5,000. Thank you so much, user 417011641. And then about an hour ago, also Anonymous gave us 21,000. Happy Friday. We're sending sats. Nobody can stop us. Team Fetty.
Aw.
Wonder if that's somebody you work with.
I don't know. I mean, I wonder why. What makes you think that?
Or maybe it's Team Fetty. Maybe they just maybe they just like Fetty a lot. Maybe they're just like big fans of Fediment and Fetty.
It's possible. But yeah, 21,000 sats. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for supporting the show, and always remember, get your favorite Bitcoin brands to sponsor the show. That way they can put themselves on the same level as Samuel Adams Winter Lager.
Is that also, I
Heineken.
think that's also Anheuser-Busch. So thank you, Anheuser-Busch and the Guinness Corporation.
Yeah, really appreciate you supporting Bitcoin open source development.
No, but genuinely, thank you guys for listening. It's been cool seeing a nice group of listeners come back every week. Yeah, you guys are why we do this. So let us know what you think. Let us know what we should talk about next. And thanks for tuning in.
All right, kids.